the ocean. But I do love the beach. I love the beach. Happy Friday, my Friday fellows. So I saw something weird last night, and for once it wasn't in the mirror above my bed after a night of heavy drinking. I turned on CNN, and there I saw John King going through some pretty bad numbers for the president. And none of them even involved his IQ.
Look at how bad these numbers are for the president. Only 4 in 10 Americans, 41% at the moment, approve of his job performance. Nearly 6 in 10, 58% disapprove. That's a tough number early in a midterm election year for the President of the United States. Now, why is this happening? This is fascinating. We asked people, what has President Biden done for you that you approve of? 56% of Americans, nearly 6 in 10 Americans. That means a decent amount of Democrats said nothing. They disapprove of everything that has happened.
So that's amazing. You know, if you're quiet enough, you can hear Jimmy Carter letting out a sigh of relief. Because that's a lot of people who say Joe's done nothing for them. And that's coming from CNN, so I would double it. I take everything I get from CNN and double it, including Brian Stelter's BMI. Of course, CNN defended Joe, pointing out that he passed that infrastructure plan. And King worries that the good stuff Joe did isn't really sinking in. Maybe because, like our Olympic athletes, we can't name one. But also, we're now a country plagued by random crime, hopeless violence, inflation, government tracking, and a disintegrating border. Where is this good stuff that we were promised? In the same poll about COVID, another 60% said they were angry, and 75% were burned out. It's like Joe has turned all of us into the VP's former staffers. No wonder Biden's minions are desperately trying to pretend he's been leading us all along.
The Omicron variant is in retreat. And that's not by accident. That's because under President Biden's leadership, a public health infrastructure was put into place to ensure that we can do everything possible to crush the virus.
Whether there should be blanket mandates for businesses and other public areas is a step that here in New York we feel comfortable taking because of the success of the president's policies.
Nice try. You see what's happening. As the pandemic comes to a close, they want credit for closing it. It's like when you help push a car that's out of gas, and there's always one guy who's just pretending to grunt. That's this administration. All noise, no pushing. But you know it's bad when even Bakari Sellers says it's bad.
When can Americans expect some relief from this soaring inflation?
According to Nobel laureates, 14 of them that contacted me and a number of corporate leaders, it ought to be able to start to taper off as we go through this year.
Yeah, it was a terrible answer, and I would tell them that if they were looking me in the face. The fact is that nobody that Scott and I are talking about wants to hear what Nobel laureates actually say about the problem. In fact, in that answer, we would hear more about the solution.
Hate to say it, but he's right. Citing Nobel laureates while prices soar, it's like Jerry Nadler and skinny jeans. It's not a good look. Yeah, as if you're going to feel better when you ask the cashier why you're paying $16 for 2 pork chops, and she says, don't worry, Paul Krugman says prices will be back to normal next year. And it makes you wonder why this almost only happens under Democrats. Well, because thanks to some of the disciples in the media, they can. Check out this NPR headline. It reads, inflation hits another 40-year high. It's bad, but older folks say they've seen worse. Now, technically, they could be right if they were talking about Pearl Harbor, the Hindenburg, or scrunchies. But imagine if you use the it's been worse excuse about climate change or racism. Yet they use it on crime and inflation, the things that affect the poor and working class and minorities that they claim to protect. Look on the bright side. It's not an all-time high for murder, just a 25-year high. Right now, as inflation rises, so does mass theft, which is closing stores and forcing remaining businesses to lock up their goods and then raise more prices. Prices are so high, I was in a CVS in Times Square and I saw Jesse Waters slipping 3 boxes of Rogaine into his pants. It's no wonder there's yet another horrible poll for Joe. According to Pew, only 1 in 5 Americans believe he will ever be successful. But this doesn't even register with Joe, who's busy competing with Kamala for who wants to be seen less. So the reason why Americans think Joe is doing nothing for them is because he's doing nothing for them. And his own loony left, whom he relies on now for everything, thinks the public concerns are laughable. Al Sharpton, of all people, says the government must end the crime wave, and he got mocked for it by the left. He was complaining how drugstores have to lock up toothpaste now. And really, the last thing we want is someone with a mouth as big as his not to brush his teeth. But lefty fiction writer Nicole Hannis-Jones says, who cares? There's always been theft. Also, coming out against shoplifting only encourages the prison state. And here I thought the left was okay with China. So we're at weird times when suddenly Al Sharpton sounds like William F. Buckley. I wonder what Joe has to say.
Boy, I gotta talk about this on a Friday? Come on. Greg Gutfeld, he's a wise guy. But, that's his job. So, you gotta live with it. I agree with Hannah Nicole Smith. She's a smart gal. Look, Al Sharpton, crime's been around forever. That's part of the whole deal. I mean, late 70s, New York, that's when he got his start. Come on, man. Did you ever see that movie? Taxi Driver? You talking to me? You talking to me? He was looking in the mirror. That's the whole thing. He was talking to himself. Those guys were great.
They were. Fact is, both dismissive attitudes towards crime and inflation are racist because both affect non-white minorities more than anyone. Stores close, prices rise. Who can handle that besides plywood salesmen? Well, also rich whites who just order off Amazon or send their assistants to another store. So the Dems are screwed, and they deserve it. Here's why. You can't obsess over woke concerns and also fight crime or inflation. The hard left priorities have taken up all the shelf space in Joe's limited brain. So there's an opportunity cost to this identity politics, and ironically, it's affecting the identities that the left claim to defend. So you got an aimless, unconcerned president who seems to be the only person that wants to go to vacation in Delaware in winter. You got a media and party trying to salvage a dying administration. And you have an emboldened left who think crime is what you deserve. Remember when the press said this was going to be so much better than Trump? Who knew they meant better for murderers, thugs, thieves, and 2022 Republican candidates?